Karen McCarthy, and it's time to Karen-ize. Today's Wednesday when we talk about spiritual health, and today I want to talk about probably one of the most familiar passages in the Bible, and that's Psalm 23, just the first 4 verses. But before I get started on that, I want to share a kind of cute story. A Sunday school teacher was having her young kids memorize one of the most quoted Bible passages, which is Psalm 23. She gave them a month to learn the chapter. And little Ricky was super excited about the task, but he just couldn't remember it. After lots and lots of practice, he really could barely get past the first line. On the day that the kids were scheduled to recite it in front of the congregation, Ricky was so nervous. When it was his turn, he stepped up to the microphone, stood straight and tall, and said proudly, "The Lord is my shepherd, and that's all I need to know." I love that, because really, that's all we need to know. So let's talk a little bit first about sheep and shepherds. I have this great Bible. I did not switch things around, so I think you'll probably be seeing it backwards, but I can't remember. But it's called the Cultural Study Bible. It's huge. It took me a lot longer. I was doing a year through the Bible when I got it. It took me a lot longer than a year because there is so much. I mean, I'll show you here. That bottom part is all of the explanations, the cultural implications, history, that kind of thing. So much information in here. And it really helps to understand a lot of the passages because at the time they were written, with the cultural things and the ways of thinking and the society at the time, sometimes things have a different meaning than they do to us now. So it really helps to put a new perspective on some pretty familiar passages when we look at the history. So if you think about shepherds and sheep, now sheep have a reputation for being very stupid. I was reading some things and it's kind of says that they're not really that stupid. They're not one of the most intelligent like a dolphin or something like that, but they're not really stupid. They just have a herding instinct, and that's actually for self-preservation because if animals are in a herd, they're less likely to have something happen to them, like if the wolves come, at least some of them will be safe. Plus, culturally, over the years, now not so much now, we don't have shepherds, at least not around here. They are just in their pastures. But the shepherds guided them and took them to the new pastures, and they found the good water sources, and they protected them. They found them if they fell down into a crevice and things like that. So they didn't have to rely on themselves. And so culturally, if you want to call it for sheep, they learned to rely on the shepherd. Now, the shepherds, they were the outcasts of society, which is very sad. I mean, when you think about that God came to the shepherds when Jesus was born, that just shows that God does not always devalue people, or he never devalues people like we do. But he brought the news to one of the least valued facets or parts of society, which is cool. But shepherds have strong leadership skills. They have to lead those sheep and also tender care at the same time. The shepherds or the sheep depend on the shepherd to find their pasture, their water, things like that. And they, a lot of times, were helpless without their shepherd. The shepherd had, well, let's read the first 4 verses. "The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. He makes me to lie down in green pastures. He leads me beside the still waters. He restores my soul. He leads me in the paths of righteousness for his name's sake. Yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil, for you are with me. Your rod and thy staff, they comfort me." And I looked down because if I'm trying to recite it, I tend to forget when I'm on camera. So the rod was actually kind of a club that they stuck in their belt, and the staff, of course, helped them if they were on rocky ground, but it was also a pretty staunch weapon when they needed it to be. So the shepherd was really protective of their sheep. They would... the Bible talks another time about the shepherd leaving the flock to go find that one sheep that was missing. And usually they could do that because a lot of times the shepherds would have their flocks close together, and then they could share the nighttime watching of the flocks. I want to read you several versions. I love the Passion, and I love this Bible I have that has it has King James, New International, and New Living Translations that you can compare side by side. So I love that. I always go back to King James or New King James because I guess they are more word for word based on the original language, but we can get some really cool insights into the other translations as long as they don't stray too far. So most of the King James, New King James, and New International are very, very similar. But the New Living Translation, and I'm just going to read those first 4 verses again, a little bit different. The Lord is my shepherd. I have all that I need. He lets me rest in green meadows. He leads me beside peaceful streams. He renews my strength. He guides me along right paths, bringing honor to his name. Even when I walk through the darkest valley, I will not be afraid, for you are close beside me. Your rod and your staff protect and comfort me. You know, we go through tough times. You know, the Bible does not tell us, oh, believe in Jesus, accept him in your heart, and your life's going to be easy. No, in fact, the opposite. But it does tell us that he's with us through those times. He will help us. He will protect us. He will hold us up. Sometimes we don't feel like we're being held up, but when we look back, we can see where his presence was. Let me read it to you in the Passion. The Lord is my best friend and my shepherd. Now, isn't that a great thing to strive for God to be our best friend? I always have more than enough. We may not have everything we want, but we have enough. He offers a resting place for me in his luxurious love. It's one thing I love about the Passion. It brings these vivid words that just, I don't know, they just create this wonderful picture for me. He offers a resting place for me in his luxurious love. His tracks take me to an oasis of peace, the quiet brook of bliss. That's where he restores and revives my life. He opens before me pathways to God's pleasure and leads me along in his footsteps of righteousness so I can bring honor to his name. That restoring and reviving, you know, that's what happens after the trials or even in the midst of the trials to help get us through. Lord, even when your path takes me through the valley of deepest darkness, fear will never conquer me, for you already have. You remain close to me and lead me through it all the way. Your authority is my strength and my peace. The comfort of your love takes away my fear. I'll never be lonely, for you are near. Isn't that cool? I mean, I just love the new facets. Like I say, I always go back to the original, but I love, you know, just getting that extra visualization that those give me. And forgive me if I've been looking this way. I keep forgetting. I make eye contact with me in the videos instead of looking this way, so I'm making eye contact with you. I don't know. I've been doing this for a long time and I still forget. But anyway, so I just pray that you take this to heart and just know that God is there to comfort you. I mean, Jesus also compared us to sheep sometimes. In Mark 6, verse 34, he was moved with compassion on the crowd because they seemed like sheep not having a shepherd. I love verse 3 in Psalm 23. He restores my soul and leads me in the path of righteousness for his name's sake. Just such a great picture. You know, just as an additional thought. In today's society, there's so much out there that is confusing and sometimes irrational, and it's easy to be swept away by the crowd of popular opinion and things like that. And so often that is contrary to the Word of God. And so we don't want to be like those sheep who have that herding instinct and they just follow. They follow the herd. We want to always have that discernment and go back and check it in the Bible, pray about things. You know, there's so much misinformation out there. I mean, if you watch 3 different news stations, you'll get 3 totally different perspectives on the same event. I think I've talked before, but maybe it's been on my Facebook lives, that sometimes more like debates. My husband and I will watch the debates, and then we'll watch several different news agencies and their coverage of it. And sometimes it's like, wait a minute. Okay, that line was taken totally out of context, or those 2 lines were taken from totally different parts of the speech or the debate and put together to create, and it creates a whole new meaning. So always check, you know, it's sad that we can't depend on the news and the reporters and the media and that to report accurately and truthfully. So always check, because sometimes they're doing it intentionally, sometimes it's not intentionally. It's kind of like, I've talked about it probably on my blog. I get mixed up where I've talked about things. You know, the old commercials that used to say, 9 out of 10 dentists surveyed say that, well, they can survey 1,000 and choose just 10 of those responses to say that. And so out of the 1,000, maybe those were the only 9 that said that that did what they're saying it did, or recommended that particular product. You can distort and skew those kinds of things, the figures and things like that. I always wonder, when you're watching the political ads, which, oh my gosh, they are prolific now, when they say so-and-so voted against something, were they voting against that, or were they voting against things that are embedded in those bills? That drives me crazy that they can embed things in bills that have nothing to do with the topic of the bill. So were they really voting against that bill, or were they saying, if I vote yes on this bill, this thing is going to happen, and it's not a good thing? Has nothing to do with, I don't know, whatever the bill is. Let's say the bill is on, I don't know. I can't even think of anything. But it could be something totally different. It might be a bill about the energy sources. And embedded in that bill is something that creates something else that has nothing to do with energy sources, and it's not a good thing. So sometimes it's hard to find out what they were actually voting for or against. But when I can try to do that, I do, because everything can be distorted. And the Bible tells us there's going to be so much distortion and evil thinking and manipulation in the end times. And who knows if the end times are done tomorrow, or 50 years from now, or 200 years from now. But we're definitely in the end times, because we're towards the end. Anyway, that's just craziness. I get off on tangents sometimes. But always check. And don't be like one of those sheep that just follows the crowd or the herd. Think for yourself, and you'll be a better person for it. So anyway, I hope this helped someone. I kind of got a little off on tangents today, but I don't know. I feel like I was supposed to say these things. So have a great one, and we will see you next week.